We can confidently say that if there's one debate that'll always take place in sports, it's who's the greatest player in NBA history. Both sides could fiercely counter each other all day long. On one hand, we've got Michael Jordan, and on the other, LeBron James. People who've played in the NBA have a lot to offer on this topic. Without further ado, let's see what Dirk Nowitzki and John Sally say about this, and we'll also discuss who the GOAT is. First off, what does Dirk Nowitzki think? According to NBA icon Dirk Nowitzki, LeBron James will eventually surpass Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player in history. He says this because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record is being threatened by James. He's really closing up, and by the end of the season, we might see a new name on the top of the charts. Nowitzki played his whole career for the Dallas Mavericks and even has a statue of himself at Dallas's home court. He believes the Los Angeles Lakers star might surpass Jordan. A major reason why he says that is because he played against LeBron many times. The 14-time All-Star defeated James and Miami Heat in the 2011 NBA Finals to win his and Dallas's one championship that year. The Mavericks legend retired 4 years ago and talked about the greatness of LeBron's longevity. He kept applauding the athleticism and fitness of the Lakers star that's kept him going even in the 20th year of his career. Even though Dirk has always defended Michael Jordan, he says if the ex-Miami baller surpasses Sir Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the scoring record, then there aren't really any arguments left to defend MJ. Followed by, what does John Sally think? The former NBA big man is one of the players from a decreasing bunch that still favors MJ. John went on to an absurd height to defend Jordan. He compared the Bulls legend to Jesus Christ. Yes, you heard that correctly. There must be other ways to defend your favorite player, right? As much as we respect his opinions, let's hope it doesn't offend anyone. Sally believes Jordan is the type of player that'll be remembered forever. To amplify his views on this point, he said Jordan was designed the same way Jesus was, and that people still talk about Jesus 2,000 plus years later. John also compared MJ to baseball legend Babe Ruth and the iconic Michael Jackson, and said he's gonna be Babe Ruth of basketball. There's only one Babe Ruth, and there's only one Michael Jordan, and there's only one Jesus Christ, and then there's Michael Jackson. We're not sure if Sally's comparison completely makes sense or not, but we sure can't deny the legacy that Jordan has left behind. Up next, NBA players that favor LeBron. We as fans could waffle all day long about who the GOAT is and who isn't, but when professionals who've played the game talk, we've got to listen. They know for a fact what they're talking about. LeBron's ex-teammate Kendrick Perkins acknowledges that Michael Jordan, or as we know him, MJ, was killer on the court, but James is the greatest player he's ever laid eyes on. Perkins said that James is the better all-around player and his stats show it. Gilbert Arenas is one of the few players that has gone against Michael Jordan and LeBron James on the court. Gilbert praised James's decision-making and also said that players like Kobe and MJ wouldn't have won a title with the Cavs team. Isaiah Thomas is known to be MJ's greatest rival. He also thinks that James is greater in every aspect. That could be his disdain for MJ speaking, right? Another player in the Hall of Fame, Allen Iverson. He's played against both players, and even though MJ is his favorite player, he does admit that LeBron edges the Bulls legend. We all know of Scottie Pippen as the best teammate, Jordan said. Surprisingly, Pippen opted for the Lakers man. He said even though the 37-year-old has stats on his side, James, or as we call him LJ, can't touch Jordan in terms of being the most valuable player most times, or as we call it, MVPs. Let's see which aspect is Bron better at. When it comes to shooting, the Lakers forward takes the win. Inside the three-point line, James has shot over 54% in his career compared to 51% of Jordan's. Yes, Jordan took a lot more shots, which gives MJ fans a point to bring up, but they don't account for the fact that teams couldn't play a zone defense against him. And when it's time to go for the big threes, it's a pure sweep. Even the biggest MJ fans can't argue on this one. The Bulls man for his career has a 32% three-point shooter on 1.7 attempts per game. On the flip side, the ex-Cavs man has been over 34% on 4 attempts per game. There's a clear difference to notice. Moving on to where do both stand defensively? As good as Jordan was defensive, there's an asterisk attached to his defensive game. No doubt his aggression and presence made it harder for players to go up against the Bulls guard. But down in Chicago, the toughest defensive assignments were always handed over to Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman. Those guys were born defenders. In LJ's case, we know he can defend all 5 positions on the floor and be super good at it. Yeah, age is catching up to him, and he isn't as good as he was at the back. it still doesn't undermine his defensive game. He's finished in the top 5 of the Defensive Player of the Year award voting 5 times. That's an achievement for the great scorer, right? Next, LJ's presence on the court. LeBron's basketball knowledge and IQ are off the charts. He's up there with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in this aspect. Bron hasn't really had good coaches throughout his career, which led him to take the game into his own hands more than often. We've seen him calling timeouts himself without the coach knowing. The Lakers forward does possess this amazing quality of remembering plays from the game perfectly. We've seen him talk about the game in press conferences like no one else. From what it seems like, all of this comes from him scanning the court a lot and playing different roles at the same time. His passing the ball around a lot might not seem significant at the time, but it does lead to gaining more knowledge about the game. Let's learn more about leadership. Jordan will always be known as the guy that motivated his teammates and changed scenarios for his side just through his sheer leadership and motivation. We saw in his TV documentary on Netflix, The Last Dance, the role MJ played in the legendary Bulls side was nothing short of extraordinary. But now that we look at things in hindsight, it's a little eye-opening. MJ was more of a follow me or get out of the way type of guy. Would this have worked if the players around him weren't as good as they were? With Bron, we see a different type of leadership. He's the guy that improves everyone around him. That Cavs team had no business being in the final, but thanks to James's leadership role, he led them there. Not to mention NBA Finals appearances and playoffs. Jordan never advanced past 3 consecutive NBA Finals, whereas LeBron has advanced an outstanding 7 times in a row. If you add it to how Jordan didn't get past the first round of playoffs until his 4th attempt, while James has never lost in the first round, things just get a little clearer for us. Yes, to be fair, the Bulls lost to the great Celtics side twice in these rounds. The same goes for Bron. Yes, it's a dent to his records, but there should be no shame in losing to a side as great as the Warriors side. In the playoffs, LeBron has 18 triple-doubles, whereas Jordan has 2. We know these aren't make or break, but it goes to show the roles they've played for their sides in the big games. Coming up, the difference in eras. One thing is inevitable in life, and that's change. Time changes, and so do the situations with it. That's one huge factor when we talk about judging these players. There are 2 players that have played in different eras with different dynamics and situations around them. The NBA back in the 80s and 90s was much different. Back then, the rosters were filled with large big men that weren't exactly skilled enough. Players these days are more athletic and focus on technical abilities as well as the whole too much. Guards back then weren't as talented. We would easily find right-handed guards that were very limited in using their left hand. In today's game, that'll be labeled as a major weakness. And shooting the ball from afar wasn't really any guard's forte back then. Let's discuss the situations faced by both. When MJ came to the league, he had the support of Magic and Bird. Neither was the first draft pick, and coming from North Carolina meant there wasn't any pressure as such on the Bulls guard. In Bron's case, he was 16 coming straight out of high school into the league as the first draft pick. He's had expectations since day 1 on his shoulders. From that day till today, he's faced every pressure situation hands-on. For anyone to say that LJ isn't good when the lights are shining on him, they're wrong. Finally, LeBron versus Jordan is all about minor details. As great as both players have been individually and with their respective teams throughout their careers, some differences set both players aside. MJ wasn't the only great player in that numerous title-winning side. He had great players all around him to help him achieve those titles. The Bulls had 4 of the best players in the league on their roster for a major chunk of MJ's time with the franchise. Not only that, but a coach as great as Phil Jackson really does take you far enough. In LeBron James's case, he and coaches like Eric Spoelstra and David Blatt. A huge difference, right? These coaches were not on a level to be coaching teams in the NBA, let alone coach a title-winning side. We can all agree the greatest achievements of both of the players was bringing home titles to their sides that hadn't won anything before them for a long time. No matter what the history books say, these are the 2 greatest players to have stepped on a basketball court. We're lucky to have witnessed at least one in our lifetime. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. Who's the GOAT in your opinion? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.